Mariner stabs Shax. Lieutenant Stevens has weak bones, and some Mugatos like to watch. Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
You had to go there right off the top. Okay.
Right off the bat.
You might as well handle the elephant in the room, right? We are joined by a very special guest, Mr. TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri. My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 4, Mugato, Gumato, which kind of reminded me of that 80s song, right? That Mr. Roboto song.
Mr. Roboto, I immediately thought of that.
Right, but
title.
Boy, wasn't that title a little bit of foreshadowing to what they were going to hit us with all episode long, right?
I never would have expected to see a Mugato in an episode called Mugato, Gumato.
Oh, these things are real?
Well, they're canon.
They're a throwback. Yeah, I actually went back and watched A Private Little War, the original series episode, to get myself up to speed on Gumato.
It's a plague. It's a plague.
On Gumato. So, that was actually... I haven't watched that episode in quite a while, and it's a lot. It hit me a little bit different, but it also brought me up to speed on Mugatos.
That was so funny. So especially the way that Australian guy pronounced them, or he's like the Mugatos, and first he said the Mugatos, and he said the Mugatos, and then Shax pronounced it differently every time he said it. Like, all right, we're going to go find these Mugatos. And the next one, he's like, all right, the Gumatos should be over here. Anyway, I think that's basically just a play on the fact that we always kind of pronounce it. I remember I myself called them like Mugatos, and I would have to sound it out and say, no, Mugato.
Yeah, it's not an everyday word, so... but I enjoyed the fact that they were to me making fun of just mispronunciations in general. I know sometimes there's the obvious data
right
pronunciation thing, but there are a few others, Picard, and just other different things throughout the different series that have had a couple of pronunciations. And we the fans jump all over. No, it's pronounced this way, but I kind of like it this way better. Let's just have a laugh at it.
What are your thoughts, Cirroc, on the Mugatos? It seems like you were.
I had no idea that this was another throwback callback of Star Trek canon.
Yeah, original
series. So I watched
series.
this episode completely ignorant of the Mugato history until just now, TJ. So I appreciate you bringing back the throwback. So when I went to look up the Mugato in Star Trek, in this episode that you're talking about, what was it called, TJ?
Private Little War.
Private Little War. Yeah. That outfit and that character in the original series is so primitive looking and so cheesy looking. It reminds me in the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. There was a scene where there was a gorilla inside of the train car scene, and that gorilla kind of looks as cheesy as this gorilla or this Mugato that I'm looking at. It's so bad that for them to even recall it is a joke in itself. But these things are hideous. And then when you also Google it, for some reason or another, Will Ferrell's picture comes up from the movie Zoolander. So I guess he's not too thrilled to be tied into the Star Trek canon.
Well, actually, our good friend Mr. Don Crandall points out that Ben Stiller is a big Star Trek fan, So that was probably done on purpose, calling him Mugato. So that's an interesting little tidbit from our good buddy, Mr. Don Crandall. And while we're at it, very quickly, something that we've been waiting for forever has finally arrived. It's finally here, and our friend Mr. Andre Kotman found it, and I'll show you what it is right here. We have a Kzinti in Starfleet. Check it out. There it is. That is from the animated series right there.
Wow.
So that's great. Eagle Eye Andre. And also at the beginning, the opening scene, I think, right, TJ, had the Denobulans. Is that correct?
Yes, wow. With the puffy face thing. I also got a kick out of the conversation they were having about Roctagino making her jittery. It's like, why don't you just try human coffee? It's too weak.
So, Cirroc, you know our friend Mr. John Billingsley from Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise, the alien race that he was a Denobulan. So we finally get to see Denobulans in a different series, and yet again, it's this one.
And there's an Enterprise episode where, they actually had an effect to blow his face up like that when he got scared or needed to defend himself. So that was also a callback specifically to that.
Mm-hmm.
A Denobulan. Wow. Okay.
Well, and if it's if the I was going to make a Johnny Carson joke there and say I did not Denobulin. I don't know. It doesn't work though. I did not Denobul. Forget it.
No, please don't try it again.
I know, I'm over 2 already. So what do you think of the episode, Cirroc? Us nerds, we look at every little thing and grab all the little pieces and all the little references and Easter eggs that they have. But for you, a lot of times you get to just watch it on the surface for what it is, and you get to, you get to look at it for its writing and its directing and for its voice acting and stuff. So what did you think of all that good stuff?
There were a few things that I just, the show is funny and light, so it's easy to sit down and swallow it. It's not like you're caught up in this big dramatic, intergalactic interstellar war.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel like anybody's life is at risk. These are animated characters, so you get to really kind of watch it for the comedy that it is. And that's what I get out of it when I watch it. I see it and I say, okay, this is a comedy. Just relax. Don't take it too serious. There's going to be crazy things happening. And so for me, it because the expectations are so much lower, it exceeds them by a lot by giving me so much entertainment. So that's my novice kind of view of looking at this show. I don't get all the references. I don't see all the aliens in the background. I see the obvious stuff like the Ferengi, for example. That's easy for me to spot and understand the reference on. I think Quark got a little mention in this episode as well.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So those kinds of things I can relate to, and I understand. The other subtle things that they throw in the background or the in the dialogue, they might mention something that I don't really know what it's referring to. I'm okay with it because I get enough entertainment value just out of what's happening in the storyline for me to feel like I'm following along, even though I'm not following along as in-depthly as somebody who's astute to all the canon.
Mm-hmm. TJ, did you catch the other non-appearance mention besides Quark?
Tuvok.
Yes, sir. Mr. Tuvok. That was great.
Yeah.
With his undercut stops and Maquis. All the Maquis got a mention as well.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. And speaking of the Ferengi, Mariner also did a reference to an early Next Generation episode called The Last Outpost. where that was the first time that we are introduced to the Ferengi. And as we know, Armin was in that episode, Armin Shimmerman, and I believe Max Grodenchik was as well, right? Or no, maybe Max was in a different one, Damon Solek or something like that. Anyway, and the Ferengi were very different back then. They were like super savage and snarly and weird. And and Armin talks about how he's so glad he got the opportunity to play Quark to really adjust that race into something much better and with more depth. But Mariner does mention, she's like, what are you guys, some kind of throwback to like the Last Outpost Ferengi or something like that? And they had the laser whips and all that, just like they did in that episode. So that was a lot of fun, because that's kind of an inside joke to Star Trek fans, knowing that the Ferengi start off with their whips and their snarling, and then they ended up being almost completely different. Yeah. In Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. The moment that I liked in this episode was when Rutherford and I forget who else it was, but
Boimlerplate.
Hey, we're here to Boimlerplate. Yeah, when they looks like they have a cannon in front of them or some kind of bazooka or something, and they're like, yeah, and then they're really just giving a 3D
so
presentation on how to save money and cut costs, and
that was so good.
Benefit
analysis. That was great.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, cost benefit analysis. Yeah, I was like, that is a great joke right there, because that would be how you would get the Ferengi's attention, right? Like, hey, I can save you 20% more on your auto insurance.
Our friend Don Crandall also mentions that when they assembled the bamboo bazooka, it looks just like the one that Kirk made from crude material in original series Arena to fight the Gorn. Theirs turns out to be a hologram projector. So that's an interesting catch, that it looks very much like an original series bazooka.
It looked exactly like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't the only Gorn reference in this episode. One of the things that the guy wanted to take from the captain to replace his stuff was a Gorn doll.
Nice, right?
And even
I saw that. Yeah,
he catches on to what he's doing. You see it on the screen with him, like hers is all and he opened it up and played with it.
And her walls were totally empty.
Quite hilarious.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I got the impression when I was watching this episode that for a while there, it felt very much like I was watching a Bigfoot hunters show. When they were like, they're like searching the Mugato, and they're like, oh, I think it's over here. I think you might be able to find one over there. And these are Mugato tracks, tangy and all that. I was like, this feels like I'm watching like a Bigfoot hunter show. Have you guys ever watched those things?
Looking for stuff.
I won't admit to it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't admit to it. No, I've watched shows like that. Where they're hunting down something. They might be looking for the Loch Ness monster or the Bigfoot or Chupacabra or something, and they're like, is it real? Is it not? And they do those investigatory stories. So yeah, I've seen those kinds of things, and yeah, I did kind of get that feel from it. They even added this like Australian character, that Patinky or something like that, who was like, the crocodile hunter and all these people that are.
I mean, I 100% expected him to say, "This is the most dangerous Mugato in the world."
Like, shh, be quiet, So yeah, I was looking for those kinds of moments, and they played off of those. I think those kinds of stereotypes for shows in the past that are tracking down the Bigfoot and whatnot. Like I said, this Australian character who was like, I thought he said he wrote 5 books, but then he goes on to say, no, I read 5 books.
I read 5 books.
Yes, then I thought about that too. I was like, wait, did I mishear him, or did he just say, 5 books on blah, 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 but he didn't say I read or wrote, but, I didn't rewind that.
He said, like, I got 5 books or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, that's it. I've got 5 books on it. Yeah. I thought that was another little funny joke. It was just a little small joke. But then I was also thinking when I saw the guy, I was like, what kind of alien is this that has this Australian accent? I don't know if you guys thought that.
And a pig nose. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, pig nose. What was that, an alien that we've seen before? Any cookies on that? That guy? No, he was just.
I don't think so. Because, when you see the pig nose, your first thought is Tellarite. But the rest of his face didn't look like a Tellarite, really. And Tellarites haven't been known to have Australian accents before. So it's probably just something new, or maybe a new version of Tellarites. Because we've seen Tellarites on this show, right, TJ? We've seen a couple.
So. Yeah. A bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ryan, one of the things I noticed just throughout this season is something that you mentioned last season that you wished would happen, and that they actually mention on screen, is the way that they're pairing up the characters differently.
Yes.
So in season 1, it was always Tendi and Rutherford and Boimler and Mariner.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode, I don't think Tendi even interacts with the other 3.
No,
she's doing her own thing in sickbay with the doctor, and
and I like that. Yeah,
case, we have Boimler and Rutherford were the ones that saved the day. So I thought that was interesting, and Tendi's adventure was hilarious.
Yeah, it was.
Just the people to go and scan. The doctor said, "I need you to go scan their asses."
Now, and that's 2 episodes in a row in which Dr. Ta'ana, the gag is that she's just like a cat. Like last week, it was that all she wanted was the box, and her pupils get like really dilated and she tweaks out. And now there's everybody doing, the fun little cat memes. But this week it was the cat doesn't want to go to the vet, basically, right? Basically, she's just like, she just refuses to go. If anybody's ever tried to take a cat to the vet, taking a dog to the vet, it's generally no problem. They're like, all right, whatever, as long as I get to hang out with you, buddy. And you're like, you don't know what's coming though. But a cat is like, I don't trust you for what are you doing? I'm not going in this box. I don't know what you're thinking. Get where And so I thought that was pretty accurate for kitties. But maybe I'm the only kitty lover here.
No, you're not the only kitty lover. I had a couple of kitties back in the day, and they're a mess around a roll of toilet tissue.
Yeah,
like they just tear up some toilet tissue, and next thing you know, like, damn, all that toilet tissue, man. So they're playing off of the cat joke a lot, and I agree with you also, TJ, as far as seeing the characters kind of split up and paired off differently is good for the show too. It allows it to be more dynamic, and you don't get kind of lost in the monotony of seeing the same kinds of people doing the same jokes with each other. I like the pairings. I thought Shax was hilarious in this episode as well. He's always kind of a standout, funny guy because he's so gung ho about how he goes.
He was dung ho this episode.
Hey, A+, very good.
He was definitely dung ho.
He was dung ho.
Worse.
Yeah, so I mean, and then they have really good dialogue, comedic dialogue. There was a moment there where I think one of the characters said, "Dangerous, carnivorous, strength of 10 men." Sounds like my ex.
Yeah.
I and just those little kind of jokes that they throw in there, it makes the show light and funny and just really palpable.
Yeah, I can't believe how much stuff we say it every week, but how much stuff they squeeze into 22 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, there were the Mugato, right? There was all of what Shax was doing. There was Boimlerplate and Rutherford doing their thing. There was Mariner, the entire storyline where they think Mariner is special ops, and that she, the punchline is that she spreads the rumor again. a new rumor. Then there's the whole storyline with Tendi and Dr. T'Ana. Then there's the storyline of the people on the bridge, with Ransom saying that stuff and the captain being fooled by that fish alien, and then the admiral pops on, played by Phil Lamar, I believe, who basically tells her, "Hey, look out! There's an alien scammer that does this kind of thing."
Yeah,
all of this stuff. And then, the bartender's name is Honus, which was a fun name. But all of this stuff is happening in the course of 22 minutes. And, then there's the Mugato sex scene. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest here. When they were trapped in the log, and they're like, "Oh my God, they're mating." My first thought was, I want to see more of this. I don't necessarily need like them to be zooming in and graphic. What I'm saying is, I want more of this comedy, more of this scene. I want to see more of like these furry beasts going at it all violently, and these two guys like scared to death, and they're seeing like through the little hole, they're seeing like a butt go back and forth, and they're seeing like and they're hearing like panting and heaving. Like, that is very funny. But then, of course, nothing that I was hoping for could have prepared me for the direction they actually took it with the Mugato that came out. And, by the way, we all know that why Mugatos like to watch, right? It's because they're horny. Get it? Horn? Because they have a horn. They have a horn on their head. No, but that was
right now. It's like the horn is coming out of your head.
Wow.
No, but that was
stop that.
Cirroc, can we ask you what did you think when he just jumped up and he made those little squeaking sounds and acted all submissive and started doing this thing? Did you think that's funny, or were you like, I don't know how I feel about this?
Man. They know how to like straddle that line where you're like, man, is this okay for Star Trek? Because Star Trek does have a class to it where they do stay above board for most parts, and certain leotard scenes are exempted. But for the most part, they try to keep it classy and it's respectable. It is a family show, and then there are moments when I'm watching Lower Decks and I'm put my hand to my head and I'm just shaking my head like, wow, they really went there. And that was one of the moments right there. I kind of thought, wow, they really did go there. I'm glad they didn't show any more of that, Ryan. I know you want to see more.
Like I'm saying, I don't need them to like zoom in on their other horns or whatever. I'm just saying.
He just wants a Mugato's Gone Wild DVD.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they played the joke well, though. I thought it worked because it was just enough where you're just like, oh man, this is too much, but it's kind of funny. And and so they even added lines there. There was one time when Shax was saying these Mugatos are dangerous and their genitals are sensitive to phaser fire. And I was like, what the hell? That's a weird throw-in line.
I think everybody
said be careful with them.
To phaser fire.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Please don't shoot me there.
So, TJ, do you think, as far as straddling the line, personally, I think they jump over that line. But
did you say straddling the line?
Oh, yes, I did, but only because Cirroc said it first. Do you think that this was the furthest they've taken something on this show, as far as like that kind of humor? Is this the furthest they've pushed that envelope?
On the humor side, probably yes, but Star Trek is always pushing boundaries. Not necessarily in crassness, but
from class to crass, baby.
Boundaries and discussing things like racism or terrorism, or I mean, I just watched A Private Little War. They were directly talking about the Vietnam War and arming sides of the war. And I mean, those are no things that you don't talk about. Now, this specifically, I think it's well understood that this is not. It's animated, but it's not kids Star Trek. And so, I it's probably not a direction I personally would have gone, but I'm not offended or put off by it at all. It was to me just a joke. It was funny. I don't think they went too far. I mean, there is a too far, and I don't think that they went there. But they went far. Yeah. I mean, it's a twist that it's like Cirroc said, you did not expect to see this in Star Trek, but it is at least, it's funny. I don't think that it was gratuitous. And so I think if it was gratuitous, probably, myself and many others might have a different reaction.
Oh, yeah, totally. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think they started off with a lot of curse words. I remember Mariner dropped a few F-bombs in the beginning in the first season, if I can recall. Those were like, and I've noticed they've kind of lowered down on the cursing. So there's not so much, bad language in there as much as before. But they introduced these other things. I think the episode before this or a couple before this, they had the shower scene, right?
Right.
And they decided to kind of...
They've had the new gym before in season 1.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they've approached this line several times.
That's true.
And once again, I think it gets a pass because it's comedy and because it's animated. Because of those two reasons, they have a little bit more margin to play with. They have more room to kind of put jokes in there and be inappropriate and call things out, that you probably wouldn't have conversations about in a filmed television series with actors,
Now that being said, they also kind of pushed the line a little bit in a different way, in a way that I love, which was Diplomath, which I'm like, I am here for that above anything else, is the jokes about how nerdy people can just be super uber nerdy. Because we all know people like that. We all kind of are people like that. And Diplomath was deliciously nerdy, right? Because you've got Boimler and Rutherford playing this game where you just have to spend hours and hours and hours negotiating and hemming and hawing, and nobody wins and nobody ends up being happy. And then they're like, yay, we came to a compromise, right? And they were so happy about it. And of course, at the end, that's how they win it, which was amazing and beautiful and hilarious and good writing. It actually reminds me of my favorite game called Diplomacy. Some of you that know, it's a great game. But if you describe the game, people kind of go, that sounds terrible. Okay, there's no roll of the dice. There are no cards. There's no luck involved at all. And you just start off with 3 block pieces. And they're just blocks. And you just kind of move. And you move 1 space per turn. And it seems like you have just 3 pieces. Anyway, this reminded me of that because it sounds like such a terrible and boring game, but I bet it's fun as hell and I want to play it.
Yeah, it actually sounds like a game that the Ferengi would play, right?
Confront.
Trying to out negotiate the other. Let me interest you in this. Oh, well, that would be nice, but how would you like some Canar straight from this? Well, yeah, I would, but just as back and forth until they finally make a deal. That sounds like practice for being a good Ferengi. Like that's basically school for them, right? So no, I like when they do self-deprecating jokes about being a nerd, because that's the best way to approach it, right? It's just to say, yeah, I'm a nerd, and this is why it's funny, because I look at life through this lens, and this is what appeals to me. And the more you joke about it and are light about it, the less you become a victim of society's pressure, saying that you're an outcast, or you're this, or you're that, or you're a weirdo because you like this or that. I think it just allows you to approach life differently when you're lighthearted about it. You're like, yeah, I'm a nerd, so what? It used to be where people would run from that term and like try to disassociate
it used to be,
themselves.
I think, that people would accept the stigma that came with the name calling, and rather than it being a stigma, now it's just an acceptance of, this is who I am, this is what I
right.
I'm not going to let someone else ruin it for me. Like, I like this.
Exactly. And it's part of owning your own identity. I think it's, in a lot of ways, a lot of the subcultures or countercultures in society have become mainstreamed.
Right.
There used to be the skateboarders were just like a whole subsection of society. Those are the skateboarders, right? Now they're winning gold medals at the Olympics and stuff, so they went from being ostracized to completely included, and now even defining certain trends in fashion and different cultural trends on what young people are doing today. So I like when you see groups that have been ostracized or outcast finally get their day where they can stand up and be proud of who they are and just be themselves, and not have to run from the stigmatism or the stereotypes that encompass, whatever is the perception of those people.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, 20, 30 years ago, being a nerd was a bad thing, right? It's like, what? I'm not a nerd. Oh, that guy's a nerd or whatever, right? And now look, all those nerds, they're the CEOs of every major corporation that's running the world right now. Plus, they're also the people running, culture. I mean, look at things like Comic-Con, look at things like Star Trek and TV shows and everything like that. You're right. Yeah, it's all become mainstream to where, like, the nerds, being a nerd is cool now. And the nerds are running the world, and everybody's kind of coming around and going, well, actually, I was considered a nerd back in the. No, you weren't nerdy. I was the nerdy.
I remember you. You were in a gang. You were drinking. You're not a nerd.
You weren't as nerdy as me.
Yeah, you weren't as nerdy as me. Look at these pictures of me. So yeah, I like it when people are able to stand up, be themselves, feel comfortable in their skin. And certainly the nerds have finally had their day. Like you said, they're in control of a lot of different fields like tech and all of these different, in Hollywood, they're all over the place now. So they're in control. I mean, who's running SpaceX and, and Blue Origin and all this other stuff? It's a bunch of nerds. And I'm glad for that. And I'm glad that they're able to stand up, and it's okay to now stand up and say, yeah, I'm a nerd, and there's no backlash that comes along with it. So nerds are finally getting their day. I mean, they had the whole movie Nerds making fun of nerds back in.
Right. You just got your asses whooped by a bunch of nerds.
Exactly.
Nerds. So
nerdle power.
We've come a long way. Yeah, we've come a long way.
Okay. All right. Little Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle joke there.
Yeah.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Very small, very low.
So here's another fun joke or well-written scene and well-delivered by the actors. Towards the end, when Boimlerplate and Rutherford were discussing how they beat the bad guys after Mariner gives them the quick pep talk, you got to save the day, guys. You got to do it. And, Rutherford says, we can't beat those guys. And Boimler says, well, maybe not here, but here. And then Rutherford goes, our skins. And Boimler says, our brains. And Rutherford says, brains are inside of our skins, or something like that. And I'm like, I'm glad that they do it to where it feels very natural, the way they're kind of like talking over each other. And I don't know if that's the directors saying, here, just kind of riff off it, give me what you can, and they pick the best one, or if the director's just flat out saying, talk over each other and say exactly this. I think they give them a little bit of leeway, because that felt like very improvised ways of delivering those lines. And I thought that was a dark horse for funniest moment for me personally.
I didn't think it was the funniest moment for me. Was a little bit different than that. I will say that is clever, either writing or ad-libbing or whatever is going on. It does have that natural feel to it, and the pace is so quick and free-flowing that it does go by. It goes over well. But the moment for me that I thought was the funniest was actually your request just not too long ago, when you said you wished you had more of the Mugatos scene there. And we did get a little bit more. And that was when they were all like passed out.
Yeah.
They looked like they were worn out. And I thought the line of the episode was they wore themselves out. Even the Walker.
And they included them. They're like, you can come and snuggle with us. You can be.
The Watcher was snuggling. And I was like, that is classic right there. Even the Watcher.
So Cirroc, is that Cirroc's funniest line of the episode?
Yeah, funniest line of the episode. Yes, they wore themselves out. Even the Watcher.
TJ.
I just thought that's hilarious.
Do you have TJ's favorite line of the episode?
Favorite line of the episode. That one was good. I love the brains are in our skins. So I'm going to go with towards the beginning when Shax and the Ferengi are confronting each other. And, Shax asks them, well, do you have a permit to be doing this business on this planet? And the Ferengi says, yeah, I got a permit to whip you.
Yeah, and it was cool because then we also it adds depth to that joke when we actually see that they're using the old school whips that we know and love from way back in the day, which we've always wanted to see back, whether jokingly or seriously.
Come true for me to see those.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another line that gets honorary mention. I didn't write it down completely. I just wrote the punchline out, but I think it's Mariner when she says, "What? He got stung in the butt. I had to suck the venom out." It was something. It was. I don't know if you guys recall.
I don't think they said
when she.
Did they say you had to something in the butt? I don't think they said in the butt. I don't remember the butt part. I think you added that.
I think it had Paramount Plus or.
No,
she said something about sucking the venom out, right?
Yeah. That okay. Yes.
So I did. Okay. That one I thought was kind of funny. And I also thought it was funny when they said, you know how embarrassing it is to lose a starship to lice?
Lice.
And I thought that was like, these guys are just rolling. They like, I'd like to be in their writer session because it must be just like.
They're just throwing jokes. They're like, every single line must have a reference and a joke.
Yeah.
If they don't have a recording of that writer's room to release like in 10 or 15 years, then that's a crime against humanity.
Right. And they also add humor and references when there aren't, any jokes, when there isn't any dialogue, just in the background, like we, in the collector's chambers, and we see all of those Easter eggs from all the previous episodes. Also, for example, like when Mariner's beating up Boimlerplate and Rutherford in the what is it, Ambo Jitsu,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
When she's doing that, and then she hits Boimler, and Boimler just goes bleh, and like pukes, and of course you kind of expect something like that, but it's funny that they just throw it in there,
It's like a half a second and it's gone, but it's there.
And it's funny. And that was a reference to, I don't remember the episode, but it was Next Generation. And I remember Riker in, doing that thing. What was that, TJ? Do you remember?
doing what with the ambujitsu.
Yeah.
I know he played it with his father.
Yeah. They were like beating. They were like
it out.
fighting over their old qualms with that, but I don't remember what the episode was.
I don't remember
American
the episode
Gladiators.
name either. But
Yeah.
I watched it recently too. So
That's what it looked like.
American
I thought it was
Gladiators.
funny in that scene where, they at first were taunting Merone and like, you can take the kid gloves off. We've been practicing. And, after they started getting beat up, Baum yells, "Put the kid gloves on! Put the kid gloves on!"
Yeah.
Shax walks in and Rutherford's like, "Shax, help!" And he's down here, he's like, "You guys got 10 more minutes. You guys are fine. Have your little fight."
While he's reading the book and just relaxing.
Okay, so real quick. Sorry, I just looked it up, and the episode where Riker was doing that was the Icarus Factor, and it was second season because it mentions Dr. Pulaski in there, so we know what that means. It was second season. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying, Cirroc?
No, I was going to say that they played on the bartender aspect in this episode, which we never seen, I don't think, since Quark. I don't know if anybody's been a standout bartending type of character since Quark on DS9, but this character, Honus, has a pivotal role in this by, spreading the gossip and, being the guy who, who's got all the legendary stories. I've got all the dirt. Kind of like Quark would have all the dirt by being around so many people and listening to all
He wishes he was like Quark, huh? Because people just trick him. They just make up shit. And he's just like, "Ooh, I've got some juicy details. I figured something out." Whereas Quark actually does know stuff. But yeah, I don't think there's been a prominent bartender role since Deep Space Nine. There was Guinan before it, but not really anybody in Voyager or Enterprise, right, TJ?
Not that I can recall.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The other thing is when Mariner's talking to the bartender and she's making up this story about Boimler and Rutherford, she says that they had snorted Mugato horns. And I was like, these guys are just, there is no limit to how far
they're the Mugato twins.
Yeah. And I was just like, wow, I think Charlie Sheen might have snorted a few Mugato horns himself. So yeah, they must have the most fun doing this this writing for this episode, because I mean, from just dropping nuggets here and there to the comedic lines to the comebacks, it's just full of stuff. They also had a Section 31 kind of.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing a lot off of Section 31, which I thought was another little, slowly but surely, you're getting a lot of DS9 references. You got Quark in this episode. You got Section 31 in this episode. I didn't know exactly what they said about Quark, but I thought that Mariner was going to have a follow-up story about her and Quark, having some kind of history together or what she has done with him. I thought she was going to go into detail, but
it's coming soon.
They're building it up.
Feels like something's coming, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mariner's history, I don't know if we've heard of the USS Atlantis before, where she started before. We know that she's been on Deep Space Nine and that she was on the Quito and that she's been on a bunch of different ships, but the Atlantis specifically, I think, that was new for me. But one of the things I noticed when they showed the pad, I mean, just like in the DS9 flashback, she was wearing the black and grays and had the big hair going on, at that time. And when Boimler and Rutherford were asking her about it, I think they were talking about, hey, all these people disappeared, and Rutherford yells, "Did you eat them?"
Yeah. There's some good voice acting coming from that fella. What is his name? Eugene Cordero, I think. Yes. But the way he delivers lines is so funny. He really adds something to the lines that are written by the way he delivers them. And what was I going to say? There was another piece of that. anyway, again, like when he said our skins, that just another way he yelled it out so enthusiastically.
I thought even the screaming at the beginning when they were getting beat up, I thought his screaming
right.
was on. I actually made a note of it, like his screaming is on point. So yes, he's a great voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I've noticed
them doing a great job with their voice acting.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they all are.
Go ahead, TJ.
The thing I've noticed them doing, throughout the season that I don't think they did so much in the first season is that it seems like every episode the captain is talking, to her husband, the admiral. And, he usually asks something about, what's going on. And she totally, blows over it. But it's exactly what's happening and she has to go fix it.
Right.
And I also noticed that, at the end when she's talking about, what happened, she says, oh, we ran into some eco-friendly Ferengi. So I don't know if she didn't have the whole story or if she was, again, like just trying to paint this. That's funny. I was just about to say paint a picture and we get in a picture.
Right on cue.
And she's just trying to paint this rosy picture since he mentioned that she might get promoted to a bigger ship. So this is episode 4. I kind of want to see where they're going to take that. And if there's some kind of, I don't think she's going anywhere, but they're definitely going to build and play something, off of that. I think that they're developing that in each episode.
You said Icheb.
Icheb, I did.
All right.
Wow.
Back to normal. So we only have a couple minutes left before we have to run. Any final thoughts on this episode before we move on? I'll give mine real quick. Entertaining as always. Cramming a million things in, as always. Cool visual references like the Pukies and the background stuff, like the Gorn thing in the background. Also some that were mentioned, like the Anbo, the Mugato, obviously. Tons of stuff that we are going to miss, and that people over the next week are going to be like, dude, did you see that leaf in the thing and the whatever? Also Atlantis. I agree. When I heard Atlantis, I was like, am I supposed to know that? What is that? And I was like, I don't think that is something I've heard before. So maybe it is something, but I didn't think so either, TJ. Overall, great episode. Lots of fun. What do you guys think?
I got 3 things. One is the doctor mentioned that there are over 100 species on the ship that she treats. So I thought that was an interesting factoid. 2, in the captain's ready room on the back wall, there is an old California flag in a frame, and I hadn't noticed that before.
Really cool.
So that was pretty. I actually looked it up to make sure I wasn't thinking about the wrong flag.
Yeah, with the bear, right?
Yes.
That's so cool because, all the ships are California class. So that would make sense. That's really cool. Leave it to the guy that doesn't live in California to catch that. And the 2 Californians miss it.
Really? I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good catch, CJ.
And number 3 ran away from me. So I forgot what that is. I'm going to stop there.
Well, number 5 is alive. What do you got, Cirroc? Any final thoughts?
I would like to see Tendy's character kind of being more assertive and less trying to impress Katana.
Ta'ana? Yeah.
Dr. Tana. I always mess that up. I feel like I've seen her the last 2 episodes now, because the episode before this, she was trying to impress her by getting that cat box, and she didn't want to mess it up, and and it seemed like she had all this pressure on her. And then again in this episode, she's trying to impress her by finishing that to-do list of the people who hadn't gotten their physical. So it's a little bit played out, in my opinion. They got to kind of move away from it and maybe let her step out into her own, show us a little bit of that Orion character that we saw when, she was being a dominatrix boss. Man, maybe let that come out for a second and see how that interplays with Dr. Tahana and the other crew. Maybe it's a one-off episode where she loses her inhibitions and she becomes more assertive or something. But I would like to see her step outside of that lane of, because it seems a little repetitive, and I want to see her have some more growth as far as her character is concerned. So we've seen Boimler kind of grow. He's less of a sourpuss and less of a frail guy than he was before. He's more, he's been exposed to being on the other ship with Frakes as the captain,
the Titan,
and the Titan. So we got to see him kind of grow and develop and mature a little bit. We've seen Mariner kind of deal with her mom issues and grow and mature. But Tendi, I still feel, is like not getting over the hump of growing. She just kind of got over the hump of whatever her and Rutherford hashed out in their conversations. But I would like to see her be more assertive and not take so much crap from people.
Yeah, and it sounds like we've gotten the first glimpse of that with her talking with the doctor. So it seems like she kind of needed to pull away from the other ensigns and have her own storyline in order to get that, because the doctor did say, hey, you're getting better, or, she gives her a couple little things. So hopefully we'll get to see more of that in the future so that she will grow. Because, so far we're just getting little hints that it's starting to happen or that it may happen. I like it. I think that's a good point. I like that when she's with the doctor and with the whole medical staff, that is where her opportunity for growth seems to lie, more so than with her chums.
And she's got to be assertive in order to do that, because I think there was one scene where they were working and she's like, that's my job. And then she kind of took a step backwards and kind of like, I'll just fade to the background. And I want to see her not fade to the background because I like her character. And I think she's got a lot of spunk. And she's also, seems to me like she has a lot of stuff inside that she wants to kind of let out and be more free to be herself. So I want her to become that person and not live in so much fear of her superiors as much as she is.
Hell yeah.
I thought they made an interesting play on that scene where she did step back, and then later on they came back and kind of the same sequence of events is happening. She's like, no, give me 20 cc's of space, like take care of this.
Yeah.
And then the doctor does come and give her this inspirational speech. But the very next line from the doctor is, but this isn't your patient, so get the F out of the
way. Exactly.
Excellent. So on that note, we do have to run. Everybody at home, thank you all for joining us. Very special thanks to our associate producer out in Missouri, Mr. TJ Jackson-Bey. And as always, thank you all very much for joining us. We'll see you every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. And until next time, always remember the 7th rule.